I just envisioned this woman who's trying to hold her family together. So her family is everything to her. Her big sister is very angry because her husband evacuated, as most of the men did. And he also had their two sons sent away to England. She's furious with him. Ivy looks up to Fern, and this is very difficult to watch her sister going through this and getting more and more bitter.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Dalfitz, and I'm an award-winning best-selling author of books for middle grade readers in fantasy and adult readers in suspense. And yes, my next suspense book is coming out soon. I'll have the cover reveal and title reveal coming, and it's book one in a brand new suspense series set in the desert towns, and it's about a victim's advocate helping a 12-year-old girl prepare to testify against her mother's killer. Ooh, and we'll see what happens. And then book 3 of my Desert Shadows suspense series comes out this summer. And I'll be starting on that one too. So be sure and head over to artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter so you can learn more about these projects. And you'll also be able to download a free PDF copy of The Letter Opener, a suspense novella I wrote that is set in World War II and at the same time set in 1980 Pennsylvania. So head over to Art by Ruth today to learn more about me, my books, and listen to my podcast. And if you like today's episode, please be sure to subscribe over at my YouTube channel and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you think. Okay, let's get started. Sarah Sundin, yes, the best-selling, award-winning author of so many books set during World War II. I'm glad that she's back with us to talk about her newest book, Mists Over the Channel Islands. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Sarah Sundin talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so honored to be talking with prolific, award-winning author Sarah Sundin. Welcome back to the podcast, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Ruth.
Of course, it's always a treat. Well, so what have you been up to? How's your writing year going so far?
Don't ask me, 1 month for my deadline.
Crazy hectic, right?
To the day, yeah. I've been busy. I've written a novella, and I'm most of the way through another full-length novel. And welcome to my second grandbaby, and it's been a good year.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. A little grandbaby. So what's the difference to your approach between writing a full-length novel and a novella?
Honestly, they're pretty much the same because I'm a plotter, so I know where everything's going. I think the big difference is that really scaling back. I tend to have I love to go deep. So with a novella, I have to rein myself in a bit, make sure I don't have lots of subplots, lots of characters, and really keep focused on the hero and the heroine and their main stories.
Nice, yeah. What's the word count?
Well, this is actually a fairly long one. It's 45,000 words, so it's just under the count for a short novel. So it's going to be a standalone novella, which I'm very excited about for Christmas.
Ooh, yes, very nice. I love Christmas novellas. Yeah, that is a longer length for a novella, but
It
still you
is.
have to kind of rein it in. Like you said, you can't go too deep in the research and
Yeah, and I keep wanting to add characters and subplots. Like, nope, stop it. So many
does your
interesting things to share.
does your editor guide you along to make sure that you don't go too
Well,
deep?
she doesn't see it until after I'm done. So,
Oh, okay.
um, but I just kind of keep myself because as I said, I'm a plotter, so I know how many words I'm aiming for, and I know about how many chapters that's going to be. And so when I'm plotting out my scenes, I'm like, oh, that's too many scenes. I need to combine them or eliminate them or figure out some ways to consolidate them.
Okay, yeah. Fantastic. I just love Christmas novellas, so I'm looking forward to that one. Well, so tell us about your newest book, Mists Over the Channel Islands. What's this story about?
Set during World War II in Jersey, which is part of the British Channel Islands, which were the only part of British territory that were occupied by the Germans during World War II, which has always fascinated me. And a lot of people have read the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society or watched the
Mm-hmm.
movie, and also have a fascination with this area of the world and its place in history. So I couldn't wait to tell a story, and I chose Jersey, so it wouldn't be Guernsey for one thing. And also, as I was researching Jersey, I found some wonderful stories. So Ivy Pico is a um, physician, a very young physician on the island of Jersey. She's a native, and when the Germans come, she decides to stay behind to take care of her patients. And then later on, the Germans bring over forced laborers, really slave workers, mostly prisoners of war, and they're treated abominably. And many of them escape and need medical care. So Ivy gets involved with this network of physicians, which was this happened in real life, who cared for these escaped workers, helped them find shelter, arranged for them to have false papers so they could live openly. And she does this because she can't see people suffer and not do anything. Meanwhile, Gerrit van der Zee is a Dutch engineer and he's in the resistance, and his best friend convinces him that they can send maps and diagrams of German fortifications to the Allies, but to do so, they have to join Germany's organization TOT, which is the group that built these fortifications. And that means wearing a German uniform.
Mm.
And when they're sent to Jersey, he meets Ivy, who, of course, has nothing good at all to think about anybody who could wear that horrible uniform. And he gets into a pinch because they're on an island and he has no way to get those maps and diagrams off of the island.
Oh, okay. There's that big dilemma, that issue. So, how did you come about, learning about the German occupation of the Channel Islands?
The nice thing about it is that they documented it very thoroughly. I was able to visit Jersey, and I've visited very few places other than like the D-Day landing beaches in Normandy, where they're so focused on the that aspect of history. And Jersey has so much. The time of the occupation is really integral to their history, their modern history, and they have a lot to say about it. So there are museums. You can take tours of the bunkers, and I was able to do that.
Mm.
And they write about it a lot. So there are lots of books. There is a fascinating, one of my favorite books about this was written by a journalist who worked for the Jersey newspaper during the war. They were under German censorship, but he kept a secret log of everything that was happened. And being a journalist, it was by the day exactly what happened because he was privy to everything that was happening, because it was all coming to him. So he knew everything that was going on. He wasn't reading the censored version. He saw everything and he wrote it all down. And if he'd been caught with that diary, he would have been sent to a concentration camp at best. He might have been executed for espionage, really.
Mhm.
So he did this at great personal risk. So I actually have a copy of his book, and I found it online and got it, and it turned out it is a special edition, and he signed it. So I was just thrilled when I
Oh,
saw it.
neat.
But they document. They're very educated,
Mhm.
very because when you get a very highly educated population, they keep records. So they wrote their memoirs. They It's very well documented. Even for an island at the time of the war, there are only 40,000 people on that island.
Mm.
And the amount of material is quite astounding. So it was a delight to research.
Oh, it sounds amazing. So, which came first? Did you have the story in your mind and then you went to Jersey, or did you get the story after you went to Jersey?
The story first because I
Oh.
had to write my proposal, and I'm pretty cheap, and my husband is even cheaper, and I don't want to spend the money on a research trip until I know I have a contract. So I had put together the proposal, and I'd wanted to tell the story, and my publisher said yes. and I got the contract, and then we planned the research trip. So I was able to go. Now, granted, there are times I've been on a research trip and had an idea, but in this case, it was specifically going to research for this book. And I actually went to Jersey um, before I started working on it, which was it. It's not the ideal time. The ideal time is when I'm halfway through a book
Mhm.
because by then I know all the questions I want to ask and I can go in very carefully and knowing exactly what I want to look at. In this case, I had my synopsis, I had some general questions, but I hadn't dug deeply enough into the story. Otherwise, I would have said, "Oh, I really need to go there, and I really need to go there." But I only had 4 days, so I couldn't have done much more anyway. But
Oh, nice.
everything I saw was wonderful. Everybody was very helpful. I asked questions and they were more than happy to share. And especially when they found out I was writing a book, then they got really excited and were thrilled to share. So, just if you ever have a chance to go to the Channel Islands, I strongly recommend it. They are absolutely stunningly beautiful, and the people are lovely.
Oh, I definitely would love to go. I'm a huge World War II fan, so that sounds amazing. And I
Yeah,
probably, so many people out there like me, I didn't realize that. I had no idea that this kind of occupation occurred and that
yeah.
there was these forced laborers coming on.
Mhm.
So, what's that significance involved with the forced labors, and how were you able to factor that, and why did you factor that into Ivy's story?
Actually, that was kind of the genesis for the story. I was
Really?
reading up briefly on, when I was writing my proposal, I knew I wanted Jersey. I had this idea of this young woman trying to hold her family together while her parents are gone. And so I had that vague idea, but I was like, who is she? What does she do? And why does she stay behind? And I read about this physicians network and I thought, ooh, that sounds fascinating. And I just love the idea of, um, a time like this where offering comfort, offering medical care to certain people was illegal. And as a healthcare professional myself, I'm a pharmacist by trade. That's appalling. You know, the first rule of healthcare is that all the boundaries of race and age and socioeconomics,
Hmm.
all that fall away. If somebody is hurt, you treat them and nothing else matters. So for the Germans to say, no, you can't treat those people. In fact, you have to turn them in so that we can beat them, possibly execute them. That's appalling, appalling. And they just couldn't do that. They refused. And it was it was a wonderful dilemma to face for me as a writer, for me to imagine that situation where doing what is good and right was illegal. And what do you do? What do you do? Do you break the law, which is a bad thing to do, or do you treat the suffering, which is a good thing to do? And Ivy leans into her Christian faith and realizes, well, Jesus healed on the Sabbath. He was breaking the law. So this is the same principle. So he chose to do what was good and compassionate, and gave the Pharisees a good tongue lashing for putting the law above compassion. So that dilemma really appealed to me, and I needed to bring my Dutchman there. And I'd read
Hmm.
about Organization Toad, and fortunately, I did find stories of people who joined clandestinely like that to send information out. So, and some of them paid with their lives. So the ideal was possible, and there was actually a group in Jersey. They were Jersey people, not with Organization Tote, but they collected information from military fortifications and did send them to the Allies. So I felt good that it was something that was grounded in history. So that was that really appealed to me. Get that little bit of resistance espionage aspect to it, the
Mm.
danger. And what drew me was here is Garrett and this man who was trying to do the right thing and help the Allies. and now he's stuck in Jersey. He can't send his maps to the Allies, and he's stuck in this German uniform, forced to build fortifications for his own enemy.
Mm.
And he's appalled and he can't get out. He cannot quit. He's got a contract. And to quit would be raising suspicion. And if he quit, they'd be like, well, why do you want to quit? And there would be no
Right.
good answer. So that
Yeah.
would be basically saying, why don't you imprison me and shoot me for espionage? Because that's what I'm doing. So he's stuck. He has to stay there doing this. And so he has to find a way to get these maps off the island just to live with himself.
Mm. That is quite a story. Wow. And so you have both of your main characters, Ivy as the secret resistance helper and Garrett as the undercover agent. So there has to be a balance, though. Is there a romance that blossoms between the two? And how do you balance between that incredible tension, and the
Oh, yeah.
romance, and yet you're trying to develop these characters?
Oh, yeah. And that was what was fun to see. Now, Ivy is known for her strong intuition. She just reads people. Part of it's, just understanding body language, but it's very intuitive for her, very much in her heart. Her family says that she sees beyond the scene. The first time she sees Garrett is in church, and he's a couple rows back, so all she can see is his face because of the ladies and their hats, and that's all she can see. And she just has a strong connection to him, and just senses this innate goodness about him, and is just drawn to him. And then after the service, he comes to talk to her little brother, and that's a story, another part of the story. And she sees that he's wearing not just a German uniform, but the uniform of Organization Todt, which is
Mm.
beating and enslaving these workers that she is treating. And she's appalled. And so she has this dilemma between what she's seen with her heart and what she sees objectively with her eyes. And she can't reconcile those. And this is kind of the first time for her. Usually her intuition is spot on. And this time everything's telling her, your intuition is wrong. It has to be wrong because look at him, look what he's wearing. So they keep getting thrown in each other's paths. And then Garrett, he's very drawn to her, but he knows that if he got involved with her, that's going to destroy her reputation and it would destroy her medical practice. And she's barely keeping this practice together, caring for her family. So, out of kindness to her, he doesn't dare pursue her. So, he keeps his distance from her. But meanwhile, they keep getting thrown in each other's paths. And part of that is due to her teenage brother, Charlie, who volunteers to take these maps across to France. And so Charlie knows the truth about Garrett. He can't quite say it. All he can do is tell Ivy, it's not as it appears. It's not
Mm.
as it appears. And she, Charlie, you're 16 years old. Do you know? so, so, yeah, it was great conflict between what you see with your eyes and what you see with your heart, and um, the aspect of forbidden love.
Sounds like it. I love that you have Charlie in there as like the
Oh yeah.
buffer.
Oh yeah, Charlie was one of my favorite characters to write. Halfway through the book, I told myself Charlie has the best story in this entire novel. I should write from his point of view, but he's a teenager. And
Yeah.
I can't write that story. But yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. He's just he's fun. He's very brave. He's impetuous as a teenage boy can be, and I just loved writing him.
So, was there a person in history or maybe in your life who inspired the character Ivy?
Not really. Other than, as I said, there was this network of physicians.
Mm,
Um, but
nice.
just more like I just envisioned this woman who's trying to hold her family together. So her family is everything to her. Her big sister is very angry because her husband evacuated, as most of the men did, to fight for the British before the Germans came. And he also had their two sons sent away to England, evacuated, as a lot of the children were. And she's furious with him. And she just grows more and more bitter. And Ivy looks up to Fern, and this is very difficult to watch her sister going through this and getting more and more bitter, and really coming to understand that Fern's got some problems and Ivy can't solve them. And she shouldn't be leaning on her sister. Ivy needs to be leaning on the Lord only. So just this woman who really loves people, really wants to keep everyone together, and yet everything's falling apart around her. And she sees her brother, who she's always adored, pulling away from her, and she just sees her whole family falling apart. And her medical practice is failing because she's a young woman, and her father, who's also a physician, is away. And she just can't keep it together, and um, that breaks her heart.
Yeah, I think so many readers will be able to identify with that and really relate to her. So now you've written extensively about World War II in various settings, Germany and
Yes.
London and France, and now you're at the Channel Islands. What were some of the challenges you faced with setting a story there?
Um, Partly I didn't want to duplicate Guernsey literary. It's just too
Sure, yeah,
big, too
yeah.
well known. So I had to be very careful. And I did that from the very beginning, from the proposal, like to set it apart, to make it different. So no one can say, oh yeah, she's just copying Guernsey, try to um, piggyback on that. Because I wanted to tell my own story. But really, past that, as I said, there were some parts of it that the research was some of the easiest I've done. I've had some that were very difficult. My story set in Denmark was the most difficult. The Danish are very modest. They didn't tell their stories a lot, and when they did, they were in Danish, and I don't speak Danish. So that was some challenging research. But this one, the research was easy. The story, I think actually the hardest one on this was Organization Tote, because it wasn't the military, it was kind of a quasi-military organization. So that was actually very difficult to research, and also getting into anytime you start talking about anything Holocaust or Holocaust adjacent, in this
Yeah.
case, man's brutality to man, it's very dark and very difficult to read about, very difficult to write about. There are a couple scenes in this book that were heart wrenching to write
Mm.
because of the cruelty of humanity to humanity, because they cease to see them as fellow humans. Like, you are a foreigner from a different race, and we don't believe that you are worthy of life, and you are not worthy of the rights that we are worthy of. And that was the German mentality. And these were Soviet prisoners of war mostly. They were from Ukraine and Poland and from Russia, and they saw them as subhuman, and they treated them that way.
Mm.
And just because they were from a different country and spoke a different language, and so they deemed them as beneath them and did horrible things. And that's very difficult to read and to
Yeah,
write.
that's true. That was part of that history. They weren't part of the
Yeah.
master race, right? Everything was the
Yeah.
master race. Ugh.
And they were communists to boot. So there was
Mm.
the political part of it too. And they wanted to exterminate that point of view,
Yeah.
just as the communists wanted to exterminate the fascist point of view.
Yeah,
So,
right. Back and forth. They went back and
oh
forth.
yeah,
Oh my.
yeah.
Well, so as Christian authors, we love to put themes in our stories because, like you said, sometimes we're writing some heavy, topics, but we still want to have hope. So, what do you hope readers take away from this story, Mists Over the Channel Islands?
And this is always a difficult one to answer, because I feel that the story takes on a different life when the reader reads it. And I often get emails from readers saying, this story touched me when this and such happened. And like, oh, that wasn't my theme that I wrote into the story, but it was what God used in their hearts through the story to touch them. So I kind of leave that open ended to as what readers will come out of it. I do always write with a theme, usually emerges during the story. And in this case, it had to do with, like I said, seeing beyond the scene. For Ivy, she's always seen God's goodness in the beauty of creation and the kindness of her fellow human beings. And then the Germans come and they pour concrete over her beautiful island, and they string barbed wire over the beaches, and they cut down trees. And the beauty is gone.
Mm.
And she sees all this cruelty around her, people being thrown in prison because they listened to the BBC. Just not to mention how they treated the foreign workers. So she just sees cruelty all around her, and she can't see God's goodness, and that breaks her. It really has a bad effect on her faith. Meanwhile, Garrett, he's been very rules oriented. You do the right thing and good things happen. And we like that we have a very achievement based society. We are all about control. And we often end there going there in our faith too. If I do such and such for the Lord, then he will do such and such for me. Whether I pray the right prayer or read my Bible every day or
Mm-hmm.
serve him in such and such a way, then, we don't say this out loud, but we think to ourselves, God owes me. And I've done my part. And now it's time for God to do his part. And Garrett feels that way. He has put his reputation and his life at stake. And now he is being treated with contempt because of this uniform, that uniform that he hates. And he can't do the work that he signed up to do. And he feels like God's abandoned him. And he has to see, they both need to see that God's character remains unchanged. Even when they can't see God's goodness, it doesn't mean God is less good. Even when they can't see God's faithfulness, God is still faithful. And they both, toward the end, Garrett lands on the very ending of Habakkuk. And this is one of my favorite chapters where God has just revealed to Habakkuk that um, Israel is going to fall and deserves it. And he knows that his country is going to be judged for their sins.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of this beautiful book, he has this prayer and he says, even if the crops fail, even if there are no blooms on the trees, even if there are no livestock in the fields, even then I will praise the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And that just became a resounding theme for, especially for Garrett, but also for Ivy. Like, even if everything's falling apart around me, I will make that decision to praise God because he is worthy of praise. Even it has nothing to do with my circumstances. It has everything to do with who God is.
Oh, preach it, sister. That's beautiful. I love Habakkuk. So, yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it sounds like readers are in for another treat, but also that hope. And again, we can relate to so many aspects of this story. It's even though it's set back in World War II, it's contemporary for today. So many
Oh
things
gosh, yeah.
we are going through today. So thank you for that. And Mists Over the Channel Islands, when does it release?
February 3rd,
Okay.
2026.
So Mists Over the Channel Islands, listeners, be sure and go pre-order your copy. And Sarah, how can they get in touch with you? Can they head over to your website?
They can, sarahsundin.com, and they can sign up for my newsletter or connect with me on social media.
Oh, fantastic. So, yes, be sure and sign up for the newsletter. So, what's coming next for you down the road?
My Christmas novella comes out in September. It's set in San Diego with a USO show and some Shakespearean references and the 12 Days of Christmas. And it's lighthearted and fun, and I'm very excited about it. And that the next book is set in France with a little village that helped save thousands of Jewish children during the war. And it's a real story.
Oh,
So I get to
nice.
write about that.
Okay, so we'll be heading back to France. Wonderful. That's
Mhm.
interesting. I had a Holocaust survivor come speak to my students when I taught middle school, and she was one of those children who she
Oh.
was Jewish, and her family, she and her brother were split. They were taken and hidden away because her father had joined the resistance, and her mother was taken to Auschwitz. So a Catholic school of nuns hid her, and a
Mhm.
family out in the woods, probably like what you're talking about in your story, hid him, but
Mhm.
unfortunately they were very abusive to him, to the boy.
Oh,
She
oh
was
dear.
lucky. She was treated much better. They made her pretend like she was Catholic, and she was
Yeah,
blonde, so she fit in nicely. But when she
yeah.
reconnected with her brother years later, he was extreme. He had extreme PTSD, and it took him a while
Oh,
longer, but he did end up being a dentist and very successful in life.
good.
So yeah, so when you said that, I thought, oh, that sounds like Charlotte's story. She was about
Yeah.
5, and I think he was 8 at the time.
Oh
So
my
yeah.
goodness. Yeah, there's some incredible stories.
Mhm.
France was really good about hiding away these children and across all faiths. And it was the Protestants, the Protestant region of the Loire and the Cevennes were very famous for hiding these children, and that's where my story is set. But the Catholics, their churches, their convents, they hid children. And what was so beautiful for me to read was how the Catholics and the Protestants were working together in France. And there was the escape route where they took them to Switzerland, and they would sleep in a convent one night, and then a Protestant presbytery the next day, and then there was a house just owned by somebody who was secular the next day, and they were all working together for this common good, and especially for a land that had been so split by religion as France. To see them coming together is absolutely gorgeous.
Wow, I can hardly wait to read that story. Amazing. And the novella set at a USO show. That sounds wonderful. Looking forward to that as well. Well, Sarah, as usual, this has been so fun listening to you talk about your amazing stories, your research, and what's coming next. I thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, that was amazing to listen to Sarah Sundin, the best-selling author of Midnight on the Scottish Shore, Embers in the London Sky, and The Sound of Light, talk about her newest book, Mists Over the Channel Islands. Ooh, it sounds incredible. I so admire her research skills and her dedication to developing these amazing characters that really connect with the readers. I hope that you've been encouraged too to try doing some deep research and writing your story, because like I always say, someone out there needs to read your story. So keep going, overcome those obstacles and challenges to finally type the end. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. God bless.